Hello again. Welcome back to Billy Ho Sports. Today we're previewing the upcoming Pegasus World Cup Invitational at Gulfstream Park. This is going to be the dirt 9 furlong main event. Should be a field of 12. I'm also going to have previews for the turf and then the Philly Mare Turf, as well as some of the other major stakes races. That day at Gulfstream is going to be huge. It's a week from or 2 weeks from yesterday is what it amounts to, like January 25th or whatever the date is. So as always, free to subscribe. Smash that like button while you're at it, and share around social media. Follow me at Billy Ho Sports on X/Twitter. If you see any of my content out there, please retweet it and get it out there. Repost it, or whatever you want to call it. So anyway, entries are not official yet, but they've sent out the invites. I'm going to go over the 12 invitees, and we'll just go from there. Later on, when we actually get the entries and we have past performances, we'll review this video and see where we're at, and maybe just go ahead and make some deeper final selections. Stick around, because I will have some selections and some definitely hot takes coming down the pike. Also, as a very special video I've done this year so far, is a preview of the 2025 season as a whole for older dirt horses. And that is going to be coming out very soon. So that's going to include a lot of these horses we'll talk about today, plus some of the other ones. Dubai coming up. We'll make some bold predictions, do all that kind of good stuff. So be on the lookout. Let's get it started with one white Abarrio. The track last fall came back after a minor injury. He came back. He won a 7 furlong at Gulfstream. Then he jumped over to the Grade 3 Mr. Prospector, going the same 7 furlong distance. Literally froze in the gate for like a half second when he reared back. And then he got too far behind and wasn't able to close, but he rallied up for second on a fairly slow final furlong. So I don't know exactly what to make of that, but that's just another he's just getting fitter and fitter, as kind of what I'm feeling like. I feel like he's kind of a form type horse, where he hits that form and he rides it real well for a few races, and then he kind of goes away for a while. So we'll go on to the next up on the list, which is Mystik Dan, your Kentucky Derby winner, 150. So that's going to be his nom de plume, or whatever. He's been off since he faded in the Belmont, and then he came back in the Malibu, and was extremely disappointing. He never fired. He ran dead last. So I don't know what to make of him, but Kenny McPeak called it a head scratcher himself. And for all we know, he could be just completely washed. So that brings us to Senior Buscador, aka Mr. Seeker. He's seeking to close his terrific career at Gulfstream, where I think I've heard a couple places this could be his final race. So nice swan song for him if he could get it done here. As he's aged, I think he's probably needed a little more pace to close on, but I think he'll get it here with Saudi Crown in the race. Last year's 9 furlong went almost lockstep with the fractions in the Saudi Cup when he ran down that field at similar distance, dry desert type sandy. So a little bit different surfaces, but there you have it. Now we have Ty Pletcher's Locked is invited. I guess he's locked in, so to speak. Looked like a serious contender for Derby 150. If you remember last year, he was third in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile as a 2-year-old. Then in early March, he suffered a knee injury, killed his Derby hopes. But he came back in the fall very impressively, won the Cigar Mile, and now he's right back on the map, and he's probably a serious contender and likely favorite for this race. I'd put him around probably 2-1, somewhere in that range. But a horse that might offer some value is Stronghold. Faded to 7th in the Kentucky Derby last year, but he hasn't been anything worse than second in most of his races. He outdueled by Seize the Gray in the Preakness and the Penn Derby chasing him. Then he got into the 7 furlong Malibu, ran quite well, chugging it down the stretch, but he wasn't able to catch up with Raging Torrent. But at a 7 furlong sprint, Raging Torrent is like one of the best in the world, or well, world maybe a little bit, but at least in the division, the country, just an extremely good sprinter. So he was a little bit at odds there. But the Pegasus could be his time to shine. It's a good distance for him. He's got enough speed. He just doesn't seem to have that acceleration down the stretch to run by horses. So we'll have to see what he's got. And also coming up is Skippy Longstocking, gritty horse. I love Skippy. Faced a muddy track in the Woodward way back in the fall. He got clipped by Tapit Trice at the wire, but I don't hold that against him. He's also terrific if this was Charlestown, as he's won the Charlestown Classic in back-to-back years. But he's looking to get right. Sixth place finish in the BC Dirt Mile, had nothing down the stretch. So also looking to redeem himself after last year's Pegasus, where he fell victim to the Florida heat and had to be pulled up and walked off. So bouncing back with a pair of wins. So we know he can do it. The 6-year-old, he's a bit of a tweener though. He's not fast enough to sprint, I don't think, like 6, 7 furlongs, but he's not that classic 10 furlong distance because he doesn't have the stamina. But that 8 and 9 furlong thing, like 9 furlongs where we're going here, is he can do that pretty well. So not completely dismissing him, but he'll have his work cut out for him. Now, the one that I feel like will probably be setting the pace is Saudi Crown, the gray front running 4-year-old. He could try to take this thing wire to wire. And really, other than disappointing finishes, I think it was 2023 Breeders' Cup Classic, 24 BC Dirt Mile, and then faded to 12th in the Godolphin Mile. He's been right in it. He's won 6 of his 12 starts. Most recently took everyone to task in the Tenacious D Stakes at the fairgrounds, facing a little bit lesser field, but he ran very well. He's run well at fairgrounds before, so I think he'll be on or near the lead, but sealing the deal is going to be a huge challenge. We'll discuss that in a second. On to mixed, though. Just 2 wins and 16 career starts. I kind of call that Pacific Classic win a fluke. But he's definitely thrust himself into the big boy end of the pool. So we'll see what he's got. Couple of moments. He hit the board in some great stakes. San Antonio way back in 2023. But he defeated Full Serrano in a Pacific Classic, going 10 furlongs, and Full Serrano went on to win the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. So he was able to catch Full Serrano going 10. But I don't know. He was in over his head in the Breeders' Cup Classic, obviously. Third in the Native Dancer, not too bad, but that was a pretty weak field too. So I'm probably going to pass on him. That brings me to Imagination, and that's Bob Baffert. And it just hasn't found that winning form. He just hasn't been that Bob Baffert that you think is going to be that front runner that wins a lot of stakes races for him. He hasn't found that form since the San Felipe way back last March in 24. He does seem to like Santa Anita, but we're not going to be at Santa Anita. So I don't know about how the Gulfstream Park translates. They are kind of inside speed favoring both a little bit, but it's a little more humid out in Florida than it is in Cali. Oh, shout out to my people. I almost forgot Santa Anita out there in California where all the wildfires are. We're thinking about you. So you guys hold it down for us and take care of yourselves, please. So anyway, back to the racing. Imagination was in the Malibu, and he had it in his sights. He actually had the inside rail move, jumped it, and but he just didn't have enough pop to get there. So he does have some speed, but not a burner. So maybe the 9 furlong might wake him up because he might just have that staying power. Now let's get into a filly, which obviously we're not getting Torpedo Anna, but we're getting a really good one here that popped on my radar at this racetrack last year. Power Squeeze. She is looking to take the mantle against the boys here. Last March at Gulfstream, she ran over everybody down the stretch in the Gulfstream Park Oaks. Everybody thought it was a fluke. I liked her as kind of like a sleeper, but I didn't pick her to win the race. I did have her on the board. She did later rattle off back-to-back major greatest stakes wins, including the Alabama. She faced like no pace in the Rampart Stakes last month, gave it all she had, and lost by just a neck. So this horse is kind of a closer, stalker. So almost 26 for the opening quarter, ridiculously slow in that Rampart. 49 and change for the half, and she still came rolling down the stretch to catch them late. So anyway, that brings me to another veteran of the Derby Trail past, Skinner. That's Sherry DeVoe, and Skinner found his way into the invitation. November victory in the Native Diver, which was just his second career win, but it was a nice one. Uh, Several top finishes in greatest stakes. I would consider him an underneath use, a live long shot, so to speak. Probably going to get double digit odds on him. So Skinner will be on my radar. Another one I don't think will be on the radar, but definitely a longer shot is Kruppy or Cruppy. Uh, Todd Pletcher needed 8 starts to win his first race as a 3-year-old. Then raced exclusively in stakes. After that, he won 3 times. The Suburban Grade 2 at Saratoga was one of them. Also third in the Pegasus World Cup last year, closing and was closing right behind Senor Buscador. And then second in the Whitney. So solid resume. Now 5 years old. Was moved up to fourth in the Clark by disqualification. So that wasn't overly impressive. But he might be in there for like a super high five or a superfecta. Anyway, so that's our 12 horses. And just to give you just a little early prediction and some trending, 7 out of the last 8 winners in the Pegasus have been dominated by short prices, favorites, and such. The winners were 5 favorites with odds ranging from like sub even money to Life is Good, and I believe 3-1 Mucho Gusto in 2020. Now the lone out of the 7 of 8, the one was Art Collector a couple years ago, who won it at 16-1. So Saudi Crown does look to set the pace in this race, but I'm looking for Locked to be right on his hip, locked on his hip, so to speak. I think I'm going to pick him to win, at least right now. I'm expecting a big year from him. So that's kind of in line with the trends. White Abarrio, I figured to factor too. He's going to be in pursuit down the stretch. I feel like Saudi Crown will set the pace and then maybe fade a little bit, but could hold on for a slice. That's just kind of my early prediction. Now, for some lower key plays. Now, if you think that Mystik Dan needed that race in the Malibu, then you're going to get a nice price on him because people are looking at that race like he's washed up, but I'm not feeling it myself. So just keep an eye on him. Maybe we'll hear some word, some news from the barn, how good he's looking. I saw him running in his last work the other day. He looked like he was chugging it pretty good. So he might be getting in better shape. I think he'll be way better running than he was in the Malibu. And he's a longer distance. I don't think he was much of a sprinter. Anyway, 7 furlongs, not his jam. So Stronghold, I'm locking in as an underneath play. That horse just always shows up. I've been a proponent of him in several of the last races. I'm not leaving him now. I'm going to use Senior Buscador probably and Skinner in the try. But that's your preview for the Pegasus World Cup Invitational. Be on the lookout for more content this week, including that 2025 preview. Much more to come. So until next time, best of luck. Take care, California, LA, Brentwood. See you soon.